So now we want to go ahead and figure out how to unhide our label. We're going to be doing this all in code. So let's go back to our project navigator here, and we're going to switch over to the viewcontroller.swift file. Now we're going to be writing this code inside of the send mail button pressed function. Remember that when we press the button, anything inside of these curly braces will evaluate. So we're going to actually get a chance to write our first bit of code here, which is going to be really awesome. So what we're going to be using here are some attributes of our labels. So when we updated our label before, we were able to set it to hidden, and that's an attribute. When we updated our text field, we were able to update the placeholder text. And if you're curious about attributes, right, one of the easiest way you can do this is to just select different UI elements and go to the attributes inspector. And these names are going to be pretty consistent with the names you're going to be using to upgrade things. They might be slightly different, but these are all elements. Everything you see in the attributes inspector can be done in code as well. So things like our alignment, we can update our placeholder text, our background image, all of these different, the alpha, the background color, all of these different elements can be updated in code. And that's what we're going to be doing here. Let's go back to the viewcontroller.swift file here. And we're going to be updating an attribute of our message label. Now, the way we update attributes or properties, we can also call attributes properties. They're pretty much synonymous. We're going to be using what's called dot notation. And this basically allows us to access a property. We can either get a value or the current state or value of an object, or we can set it, which means to basically update or change a view object. So let's figure out how we first access our message label. We can simply type in message label, and we're going to see that this auto-completes, which is a really good hint that we're moving in the right direction. All right. So we can actually just hit the return key, and this will auto-complete for us. Now we're going to get an error here, where this little red thing is an error, and it says expression revolves to an unused value. Right, so we're basically doing nothing with this right now. You can't just write in message label wherever we feel like it. And we can't write message label right up here, right? This is not valid. We wouldn't want to just write message label here. We want to write this in between our curly braces, right? We want to write it so that when we press our button, everything inside of the curly braces evaluates. So what we want to do is we want to update the hidden attribute of our message label. And right now, a hidden label is a Boolean. Now, Booleans bring up the idea of state, which means it can be kind of, think of an on and off switch. It's either on or off. So it's either hidden or it's not hidden, right? It's in one state or the other state, yes or no. And for state, we actually use true or false in Swift. It's either it is hidden or it is not hidden. It's true or false. So we can access this hidden property using that dot notation I just mentioned, which is dot hidden. And we can set this equal to false. And this is basically going to say, okay, go and unhide it. So let's run our application here and see if this works. And then we'll just talk about this code for a little bit more. Let's press our button, and then we see our label now appears here. So this code worked properly. It did what we expected it to do. If we set this to true instead, we would notice that our message label would not appear, right? We're saying, okay, yeah, go hide it when we press our button instead of unhide it. So we don't see a message label up here. So we want to leave this as false. And we notice that what we're doing here, when we set a value, we're always going to do this on the left side of an equal sign. So if you think about algebra, maybe that was a long time ago. I know it was a long time ago for me. You could write something like x is equal to 5, right? Or you could write 5 is equal to x. These were the same thing in algebra, right? It was the same equation. However, in computer programming, we always set the value on the left, and we always get the value on the right. So here we're saying, okay, update the value or the hidden attribute of our message label, and we're always going to do that on the left side of an equal sign. And we can also refer to our equal sign as an assignment operator. We're going to assign a value to this hidden attribute. Now, we're not changing the message label at all. We're only changing the attribute of the hidden property. So that's why we use dot hidden. But we don't want to change a hidden property for our text field or our enter message text field. We only want to change that for our message label. So we start off by specifying that the message label is currently hidden, but we want to update the hidden attribute of our message label. And this is our first line of code here. If you're like, oh my goodness, how would I ever figure that on my own? We're going to have so much opportunity to write code together and really figure out what properties are and attributes are, what's going on in the background. We're going to write our own bools in the future. So there's going to be plenty of chances to get this to work. This is just our first line of code in what will be many, many lines of code that we're going to learn how to write together. So congratulations, you figured out how to properly unhide your message label.